So I never expected that this particular science fiction series would be so much fun and that I'd be attached to it in a very short amount of time. So hello and welcome to my channel, and here on my channel I talk about books, and today I'll be talking about the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. I'll be specifically talking about the first book in the series. So basically this series is a set of 4 books. The third book is coming out by the time this video is being uploaded, and the fourth book will come out probably next year. It's a young adult sci-fi series. So this book is going to appeal to you if you love sci-fi. And also if you want to get into sci-fi, then this might be a really good option because it's not very overwhelming as a science fiction, and it is still intense and interesting and has a great story. Though it's YA, it's not typically YA, it's much more intense than YA. It still is a bit less intense than Brandon Sanderson's adult fantasy books. One of my favorite book series from last year was the Mistborn Trilogy by the same author. Mistborn was very epic. It was high fantasy, adult fantasy, and a whole lot more complex and epic than the Skyward series. But in the perspective of YA, Skyward series, it's still quite intense. Now here the premise. So as I have mentioned, this is a set of 4 books. So the first one is Skyward, and in Skyward we follow our protagonist Spencer, who lives in this planet called Detritus. Now what happened was, years ago, the human beings were traveling in this spaceship through space. That's when an alien force called the Krell attacked them. And in order to protect themselves, they crashed onto this planet called the Detritus. So the human civilization have been in this planet for many years, centuries. The enemy forces, they still attack the humans even now, but they are not able to reach them because the humans, they have settled underground in this planet. And also at the present moment when the story is being said, there is this military system which is called the DDF, and it has a set of pilots who are the war pilots, and these pilots, they go out into the sky to fight off these alien forces so as to not allow them to come near their own planet Detritus. And this fight have been going on for several years, and now our protagonist Spencer was the daughter of one such war pilot. But what happened was, there was this very significant battle that took place between the humans and the Krell. And in that battle, Spencer's father, he tried to abandon his whole crew members. He tried to run away from that fight. And so he got labeled as the coward, and Spencer has been known to be the daughter of a coward. Both she and her family has been living with this reputation, and they are always getting judged and people are kind of critical of them. But Spencer, our protagonist, is very rebellious. She is not ready to believe that her father really did such kind of thing because he was very brave. She thinks that there is more to the story, and she also wants to be a war pilot in the future. So she is trying to get into the military academy which trains young students to become future war pilots. Now, will our protagonist Spencer be able to navigate through the prejudices that are against her and her family and become a war pilot, or will she be held back because of her father's reputation? Now, these are the answers which we will get to know, but this was just the basic premise. There's so much more to the story. The story gets way more intense and complex in the second half of the book. Honestly, I am more fond of the second half of the book. The first half was a good introduction to the story, to the world, but like initially I was not able to get into the story. It took me some time to get into the book, but after a few pages I was really invested in the story, in the characters, and I definitely wanted to find out more about the plot, and it did not disappoint. The ending also was amazing. And as a science fiction, there are a lot of technicalities or science fiction stuff, but I will say that they're way too complex. Sometimes things might confuse you, but you do not have to go into the details about them. You just have to know the basic idea, how the war pilot ships operate, all those kind of things. I was thinking of picking up this book series for a very long time, but I was thinking that maybe I'll pick up the first book and then I'll give the series a break. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to like the story, but I was still skeptical about it. But I should have known. It's Brandon Sanderson, and no matter what genre he writes, he is able to create these worlds, these complex worlds that you do not want to leave. He creates these characters, and I really should have known, because I did not just finish reading the first book, I also picked up the second book, and then I picked up the accompanying novellas of the book, and I'm going to talk about these novellas towards the end. So I have to say that it is a series that deserved a hype, and it's a very good escapist fiction. Now our main protagonist, Spencer. She's not like the most relatable character, but I still like her. Brandon Sanderson also creates really amazing protagonists, and it's not like they are perfect. Obviously they are flawed, but you still cannot help loving them. So in Spencer's case, she kind of becomes a little too aggressive at times, but she also has her soft side, and yeah, I absolutely care for her character. And apart from her, the side characters, every kind of character, like I mentioned, Brandon Sanderson does some excellent characterization, so every character is really worth reading about, and I really enjoyed the conversation, the dialogues between these characters, their bonding, friendship, and the way they cared for each other. And the world building was amazing. It took a little bit of time for me to get used to, but it was still amazing. There are things that it's very hard to imagine about, but Brandon Sanderson, he does it in such a way that ultimately you get into terms with the imagination, and you get to visualize the world that he creates. And he is able to write some really good plot twist. I'm always surprised and very satisfied with his plot twist. And again, a very important aspect about this book is the humor. There is this particular character in the book that has the most amazing and funny dialogues. I'm not going to tell you much or give a lot of details about this character. I don't think it would be a spoiler, but still it's better to go into the book not knowing anything. But a very weird fact that I can talk about this character is that it keeps asking for mushrooms. And it's not that it's their favorite food or something. He himself does not know why he keeps on asking for mushrooms. This character really added a lot of value to the book. The story would have been very different without this character. Okay, now as we brace ourselves for the third book, which is, like I mentioned, I think it's already going to be out by the time this video has been posted. All I can say is I'm definitely ready to read Cytonic, which is the third book. The first one was Skyward, the second is Starsight, third will be Cytonic. But apart from these four main books, there are three accompanying novellas. The first one is called Sunrich, the second is Redawn, and the third is going to be Evershore. The first two novellas are out, and these cover the events between the second main book and the third main book that's coming out. And so if you want to read the novellas, you have to read first two before the third one. And I don't think that it's completely necessary to read these novellas, because they are additional books and they are told from the perspective of a side character, but there are still important information in the book. These novellas are not like the not very intense like the main novels, because these feel more YA, but I still enjoyed them. I actually am going through the second novella in the book. I really want to know actually more about the side characters. So if you're more into the cast of characters and you want to know more about them and more about the world in the Skyward series, then you definitely can check out the novellas. What happened was, in the second main book, that is Starsight, I liked the story, but what was missing in that book was the old cast of characters. I mean, the old cast of characters were given less importance in that book. The whole story was more focused on our protagonist Spencer, but story-wise it was really good, and some people might even like the second book more than the first. I was more fond of the first book because, apart from the whole story, I was also very invested in the characters and their camaraderie, and I so wanted that to be there in the second book. But that was being compensated for in the novellas. The old cast of characters are given very much importance in these novellas. So coming to the end of the discussion, do check this series out if you like sci-fi, or also if you want to get into science fiction, do check this book out, and also check out the author in general. Check out Brandon Sanderson's books. His books will definitely not disappoint you. Yeah, that's all I had to say about the whole Skyward series. See you again next time with another book review or book related stuff. Till then, please do take care and have a great day ahead.